Frightening ourselves. I remember when I demanded in the Knesset to have the right to visit Temple Mount that was denied from us after 2000, the year 2000. The security services, the military, the police, they all came to the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Defense Committee and said if Jews will be allowed to visit Temple Mount, there will be riots all over the country. Millions of Arabs will march towards Jerusalem, billions of Muslims. There was one, I'm not of one of his greater admirers, Tzachia Negbi, that betrayed us in Gush Katif. But he was courageous enough to say, okay, we will open Temple Mount for visits of Jews, and nothing happens. If we frighten ourselves continuously and we keep saying that the whole world will be turbulent if Jews will be allowed to pray in Temple Mount, it takes only government decision. You don't need a law. You don't need the decision of the Supreme Court. The other way around, the Supreme Court saying that we are not to be involved. That's a political decision of the government. They copied the decision of the mandatory British mandate Supreme Court in Israel. And just one thing I want to mention. I don't want to elaborate on the issue of Jordan as a Palestinian national state, but on the 25th of August, here in this building, in the big auditorium downstairs, we will have a whole day. Professors for a strong Israel will have a whole day conducted to this issue, analyzing energy issues, water and electricity, and demography and security and international law issues. I'm sure it will be an important conference for all of us to study the issue whether a Jordanian state can replace or become a new factor in the dead-end equation that we are stuck in for the past 30 or 40 years.
Toby Willie.
I have nothing but great admiration for you, Dr. Eldad. I just want to ask you, in our political kind of government, isn't the real solution that Likud should not back our Prime Minister, that Likud should say that he has violated Likud principles, and therefore the solution has to come from the Knesset to say, stop, Mr. Netanyahu, you have no mandate to do what you're doing.
Yes, this is one of the ways to deal with the problem. You know, I'm a plastic surgeon, but I will have an orthopedic recommendation. We can either have him a spine implant. If he will have a spine, we will not have to replace it.
Sarah, just introduce yourself.
Richard Corbin. There's speculation that the peace talks are really just a ploy, that Netanyahu knows that ultimately they're not going to go anywhere, and that his real interest is Iran, and that there has been some kind of secret arrangement with the United States through Kerry Obama, that if Israel plays the game of sorts, that the United States will be supportive if and when Israel needs to attack Iran. Do you agree with that premise?
Unfortunately not. I mean, if Netanyahu would come and say the whole world demands the two-state solution, we have no other way to deal with it but to accept it, I might believe him that he is doing something to the best of his assessment under tremendous pressure. But listen to him. Recently he started adopting not only the program and the plan of peace now, of the Geneva Accord, but the arguments. He said, we do not want to become a bi-national state. And once he adopts their explanation, he's not speaking to the media, he speaks to you. He tries to convince the people of Israel with the arguments of the left why it's our interest to do it. He prepares public relation for the big change that he plans, that he will be ready to create a Palestinian state over something like 95% of the area of Judea and Samaria, with land swap for the rest of it. Netanyahu is there already. Read Ze'ev Elkin, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs. He was interviewed in a large interview last week. He said Netanyahu is there. He is ready. And in the current political map, Beit Yehudi could save us 3 days ago if they would vote against the budget. But they didn't. The only courageous one there was Moshe Feiglin. All the rest of them missed their opportunity to have an impact on the sequence of events, because when Netanyahu goes to a creation of a Palestinian state, he won't need Beit Yehudi. He can rely on Shas and Labour. So the last chance for Beit Yehudi to have their impact, they missed it 2 or 3 days ago in the vote for the budget, because the left wouldn't support the budget. Now, there's still a very important component that can save us from Netanyahu, and that's the Arabs. Invest in the Arabs.
Speak up, please.
Okay, so right now, they're going to let out of prison the people that we should have murdered on the spot, 104 terrorists. How can they do that when they're getting nothing in return? There's not even a chance of this people. Why are they doing this to us?
They can't do it. You convinced me. I still am waiting for the first lawsuit against Netanyahu from somebody who bought his book and discovered that he is a liar and he cheated and he should ask his money back. I mean, he taught the whole world how to fight terrorism, how never to give up to terrorism, never to negotiate with terrorists. He's made his whole political career basis on his theories, how to fight terrorism. And now when he's in power, he's doing the other way around, the opposite. Why don't you create a body of consumers and sue him? It costs at least $20 each book. Give us the money back.
Based on that,
Speak up, please.
based on that, why do you believe that Netanyahu, all these other right-wing, so-called right-wing prime ministers who were formerly right-wing, like Olmert, Sharon, why do you believe that they went to the left?
That's a tough one.
The question people didn't hear was, why do you believe that people like Olmert and Sharon went to the left?
That's the greatest argument of the left, when they say the whole ideology of the right is very nice, but not implementable. It's very nice when you are in the opposition. Once you become a prime minister and you learn that the world is more complicated, then what Sharon said, things that you see from here, you didn't see from there. Now, I will become a research fellow in Aryeh University this coming October, and I will have 5 master degree students that will write, each one of them will write his work under my guidance. One will write about Menachem Begin, Yitzhak Shamir, Ariel Sharon, Ehud Olmert, and Netanyahu, and I'm lazy, so I will take all of it and write one book, trying to analyze what's the real answer to it. Is it a real curse that once a right-wing leader, ideological leader, comes to power, he must change his ideology, he must create a huge gap between his ideology and his politics? And I want to prove, and I still will need the material to it, but from the first signs that I have in protocols, it didn't happen to them when they became prime ministers. Menachem Begin, in the first meeting about Temple Mount in June '67, when it came to the table, he wasn't a prime minister then, he was a minister with no file.
Portfolio.
No
Portfolio.
No portfolio. No tick. After him came few prime ministers that had a tick. The police. Menachem Begin in June '67, at the committee of the ministers that discussed the issue of Temple Mount, and it was brought to them the decision of Moshe Dayan to remove Israeli flag from Temple Mount, and Begin said it is very good that they remove the flag. We are saying it here in Menachem Begin Inheritance Center. Menachem Begin gave up Temple Mount in June '67. So he never regarded Sinai as part of the land of Israel. Never. Because his ideology was the mandate, the map of the British mandate. Sinai wasn't there. And the borders of the historical, biblical land of Israel are not very simple. At my late father's library, there was about 800 pages book by an author called Bar Daroma that was called, "And This is the Border of the Land, V'zeh Gvul Haaretz." And my father told me that if it was very simple, one page would be enough. So the borders of the land of Israel along history changed. In time of King David, in time of King Yanai, they were greatest. Other times they shrunk, but you can read the discussions in the Talmud about the fruits from eastern side of Jordan, whether they should have Maaser or not. I mean, these were ongoing discussions all along history. So Menachem Begin wasn't totally wrong when he said, this is not our border. I believe differently, but you can't draw an exact map from the promises in the Bible. But you have to base your demands on your history, on your religious, your culture, the remnants that we have there, the synagogues that we have everywhere, what's written in the Bible. It's a whole combination of evidence that is accumulated along these past 3,000 or more years when we live here. So the fact that Menachem Begin changed his mind and Sharon changed his mind was not because they became prime ministers. Sharon never believed in Sinai. Begin never believed in Sinai. Sharon never believed in anything by itself, but himself. I mean, he was never a right-wing politician. The fact that he called for a creation of settlements, that because that was the right political move for him at the time. He never treated the issue of Gush Katif other than something that you can manipulate with, either to create it or destroy it as needed for himself. So I don't want the generic explanation that once you become a prime minister of Israel, your whole perspective is changed. Because when Sharon told Amram Mitzna, the leader of the Labour Party at the time, Amram Mitzna wanted to create a coalition with him, a unified government with the left and Likud, and he wanted one settlement as a gesture to give to the Arabs. And Sharon said a very famous sentence at the time, Din Netzarim kedin Negba kedin Tel Aviv, the fate or the rule over Netzarim is the same like Nekba, the famous fortress of 48 war, is exactly like Tel Aviv. When he